We've got the Reverend Frank Ritchie joining us in studio.
And on a Wednesday, Frank, I'm not sure whether you know this, but Lotto jackpot's usually on a Wednesday. And the prize pool tonight for Lotto is about 10 million. Didn't know that.
It's not enough for me to get out of bed.
It's not, but the thing is, right, it's not enough for you to get out of bed, but it's enough for a lot of people to get out of bed. And we had this chat off here about, with Lotto and sports betting and other types of betting, there seems to be this thing with the Lotto that it's kind of okay. It's not really gambling as such. So we want to dive into that. Is it okay to buy a Lotto ticket?
Yeah, which leans into a yes or no question, and I don't think it's quite that simple, because it can. I would argue it can be okay to buy a Lotto ticket. There is no hard and fast rule in Scripture against gambling. There are
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, no hard and fast rule.
There's no hard and fast rule
about
against
convictions,
gambling.
right? Your personal convictions.
So there's stuff around stewardship, which can inform what we think about gambling. There's stuff around the love of money being the root of all evil, which should inform what we think about gambling. But I mean, I'm open to being corrected here.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything hard and fast about gambling. But both of those things on their own, stewardship and money being the root of all evil, should inform what we think about this.
The Bible must mean, well, I can't give you a verse just straight off the top of my head, but it must mention gambling. I've definitely come across it at some point, I feel like, in the Bible, in a negative sense. But are you saying, like, there's no, like, do not gamble?
Not that I'm aware of.
Interesting.
Not that I'm aware of. But again, I'm open to being corrected on this one. I'll be very embarrassed. There is something that, if there's like an 11th commandment that says thou shalt not gamble. But coveting, envy, greed, all of that sort of stuff should inform us here. So I think it's perfectly okay to go and buy a Lotto ticket just for a little bit of fun. So my wife and I think I can't remember what she's decided it needs the jackpot to now. So I think it's like at least 30 million. Before we'll, for fun, just go and buy a Lotto ticket to see what happens. But there's no sense that that's going to change our life, or we're pursuing that change of our life, that hope. This is the thing that I find sad about a lot of gambling. I think, especially since often it preys on lower socioeconomic communities. So there was a big run a while ago of trying to get pokie machines out of lower socioeconomic communities because there's a hope there. There's this desire to be able to find a way to put food on the table a little more easily. And so this hope is sold in gambling that you could have the life. I mean, you think about the Lotto ads and the life that they show that you could have. Dream, imagine what you could have if you won this. And for so many people, it's getting out of the rat race. It's being able to ease the financial pressure. And so then we lean into it, and it turns into a lack of good stewardship, and it turns into this chasing after something that just causes many people to lose way too much. And there is where the caution is. There's where the caution is in Scripture. So I would say it's not wrong to buy a Lotto ticket. A Christian can buy a Lotto ticket, but I think we need to check our motivations. Why are we doing it? And how consistently are we doing it? Because I think of a lot of people who consistently buy Lotto tickets, examine how much money they've put in, how much money they've got back. It is just a pure gamble and they're not winning. The house is built to win.
I didn't grow up around, our family never bought Lotto tickets, right? But I have bought probably 2 or 3 Lotto tickets in my whole life, and it's the same thing. It's when it gets to some absurd $40 million thing or whatever. Because in my head, somehow 25 million doesn't tempt me. But there's this weird threshold where you're like, oh no, that'd be worth getting. But I was shocked at the amount of money when the couple of times that I've actually ever bought one, the amount of money that other people in front of me or around me were spending. I had no idea that people spent that much, people dropping hundreds and hundreds of dollars on these things. And I was like, wow.
And only I didn't
know that.
Only a tiny, minuscule portion of those people ever win anything.
Yeah.
Whereas if over the years they spent money on Lotto tickets, they just stuck that in a term deposit each year and then worked with the compounding interest, they'd end up with a good wicket by the time they retire.
Pretty boring.
It's a lack. There's three things, and boring, but there's a lack of education around that.
Yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head with vulnerable, the most vulnerable and that's lower socioeconomic, those of us who are Māori and Pacific.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in places where you'll see like 10 lotto tickets on a dining room table, and it's a quick fix, as you've alluded to.
Yeah.
It's a quick fix, that hope that hinges on those tickets. So everything you say, I say yes to. It's the convincing of the people, and the educating around other things.
And that's a human instinct. Like this stuff is playing on some of our deepest needs and wants as human beings, and so we're pushing against that. And that involves consistent messaging and pointing to a better way of being, and some good financial education as well. That if you are spending this money, it is boring. And it doesn't have the quick fix. But if you do that consistently over a long period of time and you put it in a place where there is an actual return, after years you will see the results.
I think that thing you touched on about it being a hope for people, you know, that's the grip, right?
Yeah.
It's the hope of something else when it seems like there's no other way.
Yeah.
But it's that false hope that's being sold.
Yeah.
Tough. Interesting. Yeah, I Googled it. Can't find any verses that explicitly say do not gamble, but like you mentioned, all those points.
Yeah, there are
not really any parts of it
principles
that point towards the things of Jesus. Nice to catch up with you, Frank.
Thank you.
We'll miss you next week, but week after that, you'll be back in.
Nice.
God bless, Frank. Just letting you know the schedule ahead of time.
Thank you.